In a time of money and tranquility, men and women and others who reject the borders of war face the enemy that is presence for a paycheck. Let's be invisibly not present. For the ones whose pockets bulge because of peace are the allies of destruction.
Already since the 1960s, there's begun this humanitarian industry, which really started with the Biafra-Nigerian War in the 1960s, the first African war to be televised, which started this whole NGO activity around the rescue of others in, faraway badlands, borderland places. So it's a bit of a long history. So that form of humanitarianism, the caring for the other, the distant other, has become more and more in the past decades commercialized, also because of financial, infrastructural changes, such as governments used to give quite a serious budget to NGOs working in the field of development and aid. But that all has changed, it's all being privatized, and they also have had to begin to sort of marketize violence, to bring in the spectacle and the spectacular, the suffering, to get money for their projects. And I think with that, the whole idea of compassion, the caring for others, which is at the base of Kant's idea of universal cosmopolitanism, and for a number of other reasons, has turned into an industry, an aid industry.
Ik stond van een ruime afstand te kijken naar die plek waar die executie gaat plaatsvinden. Ik ben een nieuwsgierige jongetje van 13. De mannen worden geboeid naar voren gebracht. Ik heb zoveel verhalen gehoord van de mannen die nu naar voren worden gebracht om te sterven. Ze hebben tegen mij gezegd, dat zijn mannen zonder liefde, zonder mededogen, zonder compassie. Jij dient ook geen liefde, mededogen of compassie voor de mannen te voelen. Maar een van de mannen begint een lied te zingen. Hij zingt een lied dat ik ken. En door zijn gezang nooit meer in mijn leven kan vergeten. Hij zingt.
We cannot put ourselves, the Golden Rule says, in a special privileged category. You, as Confucius said, you use your own feelings as a guide to your treatment of others. And that doesn't just apply to individuals, it applies to the way we treat other peoples, other nations. In the ancient world, love, hesed, was a legal term used in international treaties. Two kings who had been former enemies would sign a pact to say they loved each other. And that didn't mean they were going to fall into one another's arms, but that they would look out for one another's best interests. They would come to their aid loyally. It means loyalty, really, hesed, rather than love in our sense. They would come to one another's aid in time of trouble. And they would, even if it went against their own short-term interests, they would make sure that they had the correct economic conditions in which to give the well-being to their people. That's the kind of love we have to have for the people we call enemies today.
We have compassion, we want to feel for the other. But we're also such weak citizens, as the retort group calls us, which I think is a great label, because the corporate media industry is bringing us violence as spectacle and as entertainment, and suffering too as a form of, entertainment, really. And it is hard to find good critical sources that will tell us the full story. I think what we see is the compassion that is now sort of shown, the way we feel for others is not at all what Kant was hinting at. When he would say, if that if we grow into these real educated citizens, we will never support war because war in itself is always, you know, not to our advantage. And therefore we'll never vote for a government that will be in support of war. That's the bit of the tragedy of our compassion today. It's apolitical, it's a moral tale of depoliticization of the other and a disconnect between what happens in our own lives and what we see over there, which is certainly not helping us to get to any kind of peaceful world.
Acht van de mannen zijn geraakt, hun hoofden vallen naar beneden. Niet, het is de man die zingt, hij blijft zingen. Ze krijgen nog een teken, ze schieten, alle 9 in de richting van de nog levende man. Dit keer is het raak, het schouwspel is voorbij.